The silver ship descended from the sky, gleaming in the afternoon sun. It was larger than any human aircraft, and utterly silent. All around the United Earth Defense Headquarters, people stopped to watch. Soldiers stood at attention, their faces betraying both wonder and concern. Commander Park took a deep breath to steady herself. Today would change human history forever. After decades of searching the stars had finally come to Earth. "They're right on schedule," she said quietly to General Kim, who stood beside her in full dress uniform. "Punctuality. At least we have that in common," he replied, his expression unreadable. The massive vessel touched down with barely a whisper, settling onto the landing pad as delicately as a feather. For several moments, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, a doorway appeared in the side of the craft, light spilling out from within. Commander Park fought the urge to step back as the first alien emerged. Ambassador Tahoe of the Virani looked almost human at first glance. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, but the similarities ended there. His skin was a deep, iridescent blue that seemed to shift and change with each movement. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, he towered over the human delegation. Behind him came representatives of 11 other species, each more strange than the last. "Welcome to Earth," Park said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Tahoe inclined his head. His eyes were entirely black, revealing nothing of his thoughts. "We welcome Earth to the galactic community," he announced, his words translated through a small device at his throat. "Your species has shown remarkable progress for your developmental stage." There was something in his tone, a hint of condescension perhaps, that made Commander Park's diplomatic smile falter for just a moment. The formal greetings continued under the watchful eyes of news cameras broadcasting to every corner of the planet. Humans had prepared for this moment for generations, creating protocols and training specialized diplomats. Now that it was happening, it felt both surreal and oddly mundane. Later, in the private council chambers, the true nature of the meeting became clear. "Your nuclear fission technology is quite primitive, but impressive for a species at your level," Tahoe remarked, examining the detailed reports Earth had provided. "Most species abandon such dangerous power sources once they discover safer alternatives." General Kim smiled politely. "We're working toward fusion power, of course." "Ah yes, fusion. A stepping stone." Tahoe waved his hand dismissively. "The Council typically provides technological assistance to developing worlds, but there are protocols to follow." Another alien, a reptilian creature named Domo, leaned forward. "Your planet has abundant resources that would be valuable to the Council, particularly your rare Earth elements and biological diversity." Commander Park noticed how quickly the conversation had turned to Earth's resources. She caught General Kim's eye across the table, a silent message passing between them. Their contingency plans would continue. "We are honored by your presence," Park replied with a perfect diplomatic smile. "Humanity has much to learn from your advanced civilizations." That evening, after the aliens returned to their ship to rest in their accustomed atmosphere, Earth's leaders gathered in a secure underground facility. "They see us as children," President Lee said, reviewing the day's recordings. "Primitive beings barely worth their notice." General Kim nodded. "Except for our resources, those they find very interesting." Commander Park brought up a holographic display showing the alien vessel. "They scanned our entire planet during their approach. Their technology is far beyond what we publicly acknowledge." But what?" the President asked. "They're making assumptions based on what they expect to see. They believe we're following the same technological path they did. They're looking for energy weapons, antimatter drives, gravitational manipulation." General Kim smiled slightly. "Not electromagnetic acceleration weapons." "Exactly." Park pulled up another display showing a massive railgun facility hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean. "They've advanced so far beyond kinetic weapons that they don't even consider them a threat. It's like an adult worrying about a child's slingshot while ignoring that the child also has a rifle." The President looked troubled. You believe their intentions are hostile. Commander Park replayed Ambassador Tahoe's words about primitive species and resource allocation. Not immediately hostile. No, but they clearly see us as a resource to be managed, not as equals. The question is, how long before management becomes exploitation? In the ship hovering above Earth, Ambassador Tahoe was having a similar discussion with his fellow council members. The humans are developing precisely as expected, he reported. Their technology follows the standard pattern. Nuclear fission, early space exploration, primitive AI systems. They are at least a century from anything that could concern us. Damo, the reptilian, flicked his tongue thoughtfully. Their military seems focused on projectile weapons, very inefficient. All young species begin that way, Tahoe replied. They'll abandon such approaches when we introduce them to energy-based systems. And their resources? Asked another council member. Tahoe's mouth curved into what passed for a smile among his species, abundant and largely untapped. The extraction rights alone will pay for our expedition many times over. None of them realized that deep beneath the oceans, buried in mountains, and hidden on the far side of Earth's moon, humans had been preparing for this day. They had developed technologies in ways the aliens never expected, perfecting methods the council species had abandoned centuries ago. What the aliens didn't understand was that humans had evolved as tool users, weapon makers. When the galactic community had turned toward energy manipulation, humans had continued refining the art of throwing very fast, very deadly objects. The difference was about to become tragically clear to the council. For now, both sides smiled and spoke of friendship, each believing they understood the other. Both were wrong. 3 months had passed since the aliens arrived. Earth had settled into an uneasy relationship with the Galactic Council. Today was important. The Council had sent a special team to assess Earth's technology. Colonel Lee stood at attention as the shuttle landed at the North American Defense Complex. The main visitor was Jiho, a military analyst from the Drakari species. Unlike the blue-skinned Varani, the Drakari were covered in metallic green scales that caught the sunlight like polished armor. Jiho moved with the confident grace of a predator. "Welcome to our facility," Colonel Lee said with a formal bow. "We're honored to show you our technological achievements." Jiho's vertical pupils narrowed slightly. "I look forward to seeing what your species has developed." Behind him, 4 other aliens from different council species followed, each carrying scanning devices and recording equipment. Their mission was clear: catalog human capabilities and determine if Earth posed any threat to the galactic order. Colonel Lee led them first to the Military History Museum. This was deliberate. Earth's leaders had carefully planned which technologies to reveal. "This section shows our development of firearms over the past 5 centuries, Lee explained, gesturing to glass cases containing everything from flintlock pistols to modern assault rifles. Jiho picked up an M4 carbine, turning it over in his clawed hands. His expression was difficult to read on his reptilian face, but his tone made his thoughts clear. "These combustion weapons are quite quaint," he remarked, setting the rifle down with slight disdain. "Our civilizations abandoned such primitive kinetic weapons millennia ago. The propellant is inefficient, a projectile slow, and the heat signature makes the user immediately detectable." Colonel Lee nodded respectfully. "We're still developing our understanding of energy manipulation. We rely on what works for us." "A practical approach," Jiho replied, though his tone suggested he found nothing practical about it. The tour continued through carefully selected facilities across the globe. At each stop, humans revealed technologies that seemed impressive by Earth standards, but were centuries behind what the Council species possessed. In Russia, they examined advanced missile silos that had secretly been decommissioned years ago. In China, they were shown fighter jets that would have been cutting-edge 20 years earlier. In the Atlantic, a nuclear submarine performed maneuvers that impressed the aliens only because they considered ocean technology a peculiar diversion. Your underwater vessels are actually quite sophisticated, noted Jiho as they watched the submarine through special viewing screens. Though I'm surprised you devote so much military capacity to water combat. Earth is mostly ocean, replied Admiral Dong, who had joined the tour. Control of the seas has always been strategically important to us. What the aliens didn't see were the real advancements, the quantum communication networks, the new generation of electromagnetic weapons, the drone swarms controlled by advanced AI systems. All these remained hidden in underground facilities or disguised as civilian research projects. At the International Space Station, Jiho examined Earth's most advanced space technology with particular interest. Your propulsion systems are still chemical-based, he commented, watching a video of a rocket launch. Inefficient, but typical for your development stage. Dr. Han, the station commander, smiled politely. We're making progress, though space exploration is expensive for us. The Council could assist with more advanced drive systems, Joe offered. For appropriate compensation, of course. That evening, the assessment team gathered in their temporary quarters to compare notes. Unaware of the hidden microphones placed by Earth intelligence, they spoke freely. Their technology is exactly as our predictive model suggested, Jiho stated, compiling his report. Combustion engines, basic digital computing, rudimentary AI, and nuclear fission. Nothing unexpected. Another alien, a blue-skinned data analyst named Miso, nodded. Their most advanced weapons are still kinetic, throwing metal with chemical propellants. Energy weapons appear theoretical at best. Their fixation on projectile technology is interesting, noted a third alien with 4 arms. Most species abandon such approaches once they discover plasma manipulation. Jiho made a sound that translated as laughter. They're following a developmental dead end. Perhaps in a century, they might develop something concerning, but for now. In the monitoring room several floors below, Colonel Lee listened to the conversation with General Kim and Commander Park. They're underestimating us, Lee said quietly, just as we hoped. General Kim nodded. Jiho is exactly the kind of arrogant military analyst we expected. He sees what he wants to see. A primitive species following the same development path as every other Council world. Commander Park reviewed the alien scanning data they had intercepted. Their sensors detected nothing beyond what we wanted them to find. Operation Blind Spot is working perfectly. On the final day of the assessment mission, Jiho presented his conclusions to Earth's United Defense Council. His report was comprehensive, and from the human perspective, perfectly wrong. In summary, Jiho concluded, his scales gleaming under the council chamber lights. Human technology is progressing normally for a species at your development stage. Your reliance on kinetic weapons and combustion technology is typical, if somewhat inefficient. The Council classifies Earth as a Class C civilization, with at least a century of development needed before you could produce any technologies of concern. President Lee expressed appropriate gratitude for the assessment. We value the Council's insights and look forward to learning from more advanced civilizations. After the aliens departed, Earth's true military leadership gathered in a secure facility deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Here, the first operational electromagnetic mass driver, a railgun capable of launching projectiles at speeds the aliens considered theoretically impossible, was being prepared for its final tests. How long until the full network is operational? President Lee asked. General Kim studied the global deployment map. 6 more weeks. Then we'll have coverage of near-Earth orbit from 37 hidden platforms. And the aliens suspect nothing. Commander Park smiled slightly. They're too advanced to look for something so primitive. Why would a species waste time perfecting railguns when energy weapons are the obvious path forward? Because sometimes, Colonel Lee added, the obvious path isn't the only path. 6 months of uneasy peace had passed since the aliens' assessment of Earth. Life had begun to settle into a new normal. Humans went about their daily routines while diplomatic talks continued between Earth and the Galactic Council. Trade agreements were being discussed. Cultural exchanges had begun. Earth had even sent a small delegation to visit the nearest Council outpost in the Alpha Centauri system. On the surface, everything seemed to be progressing well. But behind closed doors, Earth's military leaders watched and waited. They had seen how the Council treated other developing worlds. The morning Ambassador Tavo requested an emergency meeting with the United Earth Council. President Minho knew something had changed. The council chamber was tense as the tall, blue-skinned alien entered without the usual pleasantries. "Thank you for meeting on such short notice," Tahoe said, his translator conveying his words in a flat tone that lacked his usual diplomatic warmth. "The Galactic Council has completed its assessment of Earth and determined the appropriate integration protocol." President Minho nodded politely. "We look forward to hearing the Council's proposal." Tahoe activated a holographic display showing Earth's mineral deposits. Red highlights appeared across the planet, marking areas rich in rare metals and elements. "The Council requires access to 30% of Earth's mineral resources as payment for technological uplift and protection services," he announced, as if stating something perfectly reasonable. "Our mining operations will begin immediately in these designated zones." A murmur ran through the human delegates. This wasn't a proposal, it was a demand. President Minho stood slowly, her face calm despite her rising anger. "Ambassador Tahoe, Earth respectfully declines. We seek equal partnership, not servitude." Tahoe's black eyes narrowed. "Perhaps I wasn't clear. This isn't a negotiation." "I understand perfectly," President Minho replied. "And my answer remains the same. Earth will not surrender its resources without fair compensation and equal standing in any agreement." The ambassador's pleasant demeanor vanished entirely. His skin darkened to a deep midnight blue, a sign of anger among the Varani. "Then you leave us no choice. Earth will be designated a resource extraction zone. Resistance is inadvisable." With that, he turned and left the chamber without following any of the diplomatic protocols that had marked previous meetings. General Kim, who had been observing from the back of the room, approached the president. "It seems they've shown their true intentions." President Minho nodded grimly. "How ready are we?" "As ready as we'll ever be," he replied quietly. 3 hours later, Earth's deep space monitoring stations detected multiple ships emerging from faster-than-light travel near Mars. The Varani battle group consisted of 7 vessels, 1 massive command ship and 6 smaller but still imposing warships. In mission control, technicians tracked the alien fleet as it moved toward Earth. "They're taking standard orbital positions," reported Colonel Yuna, watching the tactical display. "Looks like they're spreading out to cover the major continental defense centers." General Kim studied the pattern. "Just as we predicted. They're positioning for what they call limited tactical strikes, their standard approach for stubborn worlds." President Minho observed from the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. This facility, unknown to the aliens, had been built specifically for this possibility. "Have they made any demands yet?" she asked. As if in answer, all global communication systems received the same message simultaneously. Ambassador Tahoe's face appeared on screens worldwide. "People of Earth, your leaders have unwisely rejected the Galactic Council's generous offer. We regret this decision has led to the current situation. You now have 24 hours to surrender control of your planet's resource management. If you comply, minimal disruption will occur to your daily lives. If you resist, we will be forced to disable your military capabilities through limited tactical strikes. This action is regrettable but necessary for galactic stability." As the message ended, General Kim turned to the president. "They believe their technology makes them invincible. Their shields can easily stop any missile we officially possess. They expect us to surrender without a fight." President Minho's expression was resolute. "Then they clearly don't understand humans very well." She turned to the communications officer. "Connect me with Director Jiwoo." On the screen, Director Jiwoo appeared from her command post in the lunar facility, hidden beneath the far side of the moon. For 6 years, this base had been secretly constructed under the guise of a small research station. Madam President, Jiwoo nodded. The Varani Battle Group has established standard intimidation formation, just as the defectors from the Council predicted they would. Are we ready, Director? Yes, Madam President. All systems are operational. The electromagnetic defense network is fully charged. Ground-based units are prepared. The lunar batteries are aligned. President Minho took a deep breath. The next few hours would determine humanity's future among the stars. Either they would become just another subjugated world in the Council's collection, or they would change the galactic power balance forever. You have authorization to proceed with Operation Thunderbolt at your discretion. Director Jiwoo, the moment they make any aggressive move, you may engage. Director Jiwoo nodded solemnly. Understood, Madam President. She turned to her staff, her voice calm but commanding. Initiate Operation Thunderbolt. Throughout Earth's orbit and across the lunar surface, hidden installations powered up. In deep ocean trenches, massive energy capacitors began charging. Disguised as weather satellites, communications arrays, and space debris monitoring stations, Earth's true defensive network awakened. Aboard the Varani command ship, Admiral Hoon watched Earth with contempt. No unusual activity detected, his tactical officer reported. Their military forces are on alert, but they've made no aggressive moves. They know resistance is futile. Admiral Hoon replied. By this time tomorrow, they'll have accepted their new status. Prepare the targeting data for the demonstration strikes. We'll need to destroy at least 3 of their major military installations to prove our resolve. Sir, the tactical officer asked hesitantly, what about their nuclear weapons? Admiral Hoon made a dismissive gesture. Our shields can easily absorb such primitive attacks, and our first strikes will target their launch facilities. They'll never even get them airborne. On the lunar base, Director Jiwoo watched the alien ships through advanced telescopes. The Varani were confident, comfortable in their technological superiority. They had no idea what was coming. All electromagnetic accelerators report ready, her weapons officer announced. Kinetic projectiles are loaded and targeting solutions are locked. Director Jiwoo nodded. Now we wait for them to make the first move. They will, soon enough. They always do. She allowed herself a small smile. And then they'll learn why you should never underestimate a species that has spent its entire history finding better ways to throw rocks. The 24-hour deadline was almost up. In the deep underground command center, Earth's leaders gathered for what might be humanity's most important moment since discovering fire. General Kim stood before the emergency session of Earth's united government. His uniform was crisp, his expression calm despite the weight of what was about to happen. The Varani ships have begun moving into attack positions, he reported. Their weapons systems are powering up. They intend to make an example of us. President Minho looked around the room at the representatives of Earth's nations. The moment has come for us to reveal what we truly are. General, please explain to those who haven't been briefed on our full capabilities. General Kim activated the main display, showing a complex network of hidden installations across Earth and the Moon. For 50 years, we've developed technology in ways aliens never considered. While they focused on energy weapons, we perfected electromagnetic acceleration. He pointed to different locations on the map. These are our railgun emplacements. 200 on Earth, 50 on the Moon. Each can accelerate a projectile to speeds the aliens believe impossible for primitive kinetic technology. Someone gasped. You mean we've had these weapons all along? Yes, General Kim nodded. After we discovered the first alien probe in the Arctic in 1976, world leaders secretly agreed to prepare for this day. Even as we fought our own wars, this project continued in shadow. On the main screen, they could see the alien fleet spreading out above Earth. The Varani command ship was broadcasting again. Your time has expired, Admiral Sungho announced. You have chosen resistance over cooperation. We will now demonstrate why this was unwise. President Minho's voice was steady as she gave the order. General Kim, you are authorized to defend Earth. The general spoke into his secure communication link. Admiral Chunho, Operation Thunderbolt is now active. You may fire when ready. Across the planet, and in secret lunar bases, massive electromagnetic railguns powered up. Disguised as weather satellites, research stations, and even innocent-looking communications towers, Earth's true defenses awoke. Energy that had been accumulating in hidden capacitors for days now flowed into the weapon systems. In his command center beneath the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Chunho watched as targeting solutions locked onto each Varani vessel. All weapons report ready, sir, his weapons officer announced. Admiral Chunho took a deep breath. 50 years of preparation came down to this moment. Fire, he ordered. Across Earth and the Moon, the railguns discharged simultaneously. There was no dramatic flash, no thunderous boom in space, just the silent launch of hundreds of tungsten rods, each no bigger than a human arm, accelerated to speeds that defy the aliens' understanding of kinetic weapons. Aboard the Varani flagship, Admiral Sungho was preparing to fire the first demonstration strike when alarms blared across the command deck. Sir, multiple objects approaching it. The tactical officer paused, checking his instruments. That can't be right. The readings suggest velocities beyond what their technology should be capable of. Admiral Sungho barely had time to look up before the first impacts. The Varani shields, designed to disperse energy weapons, proved useless against simple kinetic projectiles moving at impossible speeds. They passed through the energy barriers as if they weren't even there. 3 smaller warships shattered instantly as tungsten rods tore through their hulls. The massive command ship shuddered as multiple projectiles struck its outer armor. What is happening? Admiral Sungho demanded, gripping his command chair as the ship rocked from another impact. Their weapons can't possibly. Sir, his tactical officer interrupted, face pale with shock. The humans are using railguns. Magnetic acceleration weapons. Railguns. Sungho repeated in confusion. Nobody uses railguns anymore. That's primitive technology. But the evidence was undeniable as another volley struck the fleet. 2 more Varani ships broke apart, their fragments spinning away into Earth orbit. In the United Earth Defense Headquarters, military analyst Jiho of the Drakari watched the tactical display in stunned silence. He had remained on Earth as the Council's military liaison, confident in the Varani fleet's ability to subdue this primitive world. Now he watched as that fleet was being systematically destroyed by technology he had dismissed as obsolete. How is this possible? He whispered, his scaled skin pale with shock. Your assessment showed nothing beyond basic projectile weapons. Colonel Lee, who stood beside him, allowed himself a small smile. You saw what we wanted you to see, Analyst Jiho. You assumed we would develop technology along the same path as your species. That was your mistake. Jiho finally understood his critical error. He had assessed human capabilities based on alien technological evolution, never considering that humans would perfect what other species had abandoned. While your people focused on energy manipulation, we continued refining kinetic weapons, Colonel Lee explained. Our railguns accelerate projectiles to speeds your shields were never designed to stop. On the main screen, they watched as the Varani command ship attempted to retreat, its engines flaring desperately. A final barrage of tungsten rods intercepted it, tearing through its propulsion systems. Your shields are designed to disperse energy, General Kim said, approaching Jiho. A logical development for species who primarily use plasma weapons, laser arrays, and particle beams. But a simple metal rod moving fast enough. That's just physics. Sometimes the old ways work best. In lunar orbit, Admiral Chunho watched with grim satisfaction as the Varani fleet was reduced to scattered debris. Only the command ship remained partially intact, drifting powerless. Lunar Battery 3 reports direct hit on the flagship's engine core, his tactical officer reported. They're dead in space, sir. Admiral Chunho nodded. Open a communication channel to their command ship. After a moment, Admiral Sungho's face appeared on screen. Behind him, emergency lighting cast red shadows across a damaged bridge. The proud Varani looked shocked, his blue skin pale with disbelief. "This is Admiral Chunho of Earth Defense Force. Your fleet has been neutralized. We are prepared to rescue your survivors if you formally surrender." Admiral Sungho stared in stunned silence before finding his voice. "How? Your technology. You're a Class C civilization. You shouldn't have weapons like this for centuries. You classified us based on what you understand." Admiral Chunho replied calmly. "That was your mistake. Do you surrender?" After a long pause, Admiral Sungho nodded. "We surrender." Back in the command center, President Minho turned to Jiho. "Please inform the Galactic Council that Earth is open to renewed diplomatic talks, as equals." Jiho looked around at the humans, seeing them with new eyes. The Council believed all advanced species followed the same technological path. Energy weapons, then gravity manipulation, then dimensional technologies. Perhaps, General Kim suggested, true advancement comes from diversity of approach, not a single predetermined path. "One more thing," President Minho added. "Tell them Earth is not a resource extraction zone. It is the home of a species that has spent its entire evolutionary history finding better ways to throw rocks. They would do well to remember that." The news spread quickly across the galaxy. Earth, a supposedly primitive planet at the edge of the spiral arm, had defeated a Varani battle group. Not just defeated, utterly destroyed 5 warships and crippled the flagship with weapons the Council had considered obsolete for millennia. The Varani retreat was hasty and disorganized. The surviving command ship limped away, barely able to achieve faster-than-light travel. Within 3 days, different Council representatives were contacting Earth, their messages suddenly respectful. In the United Earth Defense Headquarters, President Minho met with her advisors. "The Galactic Council requests new diplomatic talks," she announced, reading the latest transmission. "They say there has been an unfortunate misunderstanding." General Kim couldn't help but smile. Amazing how quickly their tone changes when they realize we can defend ourselves. Military analyst Jiho, the Drakari who had so badly misjudged Earth's capabilities, approached President Minho after the meeting. "Madam President, I wish to request asylum on Earth," he said, his scaled skin reflecting the office lights. "Asylum?" she asked. "Why would you need asylum from your own people?" "Because I intend to tell you everything," Jiho replied. "The Council's true structure, their military capabilities, their plans for resource extraction across this sector. I was wrong about your species, and the Varani are wrong about how to manage the galaxy." Over the next weeks, Jiho provided invaluable intelligence about the Council's operations, maps of their territories, details of their technology, and most importantly, information about other species unhappy with Varani rule. "The Council underestimated you," he explained during one briefing. "They believed advanced civilizations must follow the same technological path. Your primitive approach produced weapons beyond our comprehension." Colonel Lee looked thoughtful. "You mean other species have been forced to develop along the Varani model?" "Exactly," Jiho nodded. "The Council finds developing worlds and guides them toward energy-based technology, creating dependency. Worlds that resist are subdued or isolated. Earth is the first to successfully fight back in over 500 years. The impact was immediate. 3 subjugated Council species reached out secretly through channels Jiho helped establish. Each had suffered under Varani dominance, forced to provide resources while receiving minimal technological assistance in return. The Materi of Proxima Centauri wished to form a defensive alliance, Ambassador Hyun reported, reading the encrypted message. They chafed under Varani rule for centuries. "The Oridi Federation sends similar requests," added Commander Park. "They control 17 systems at the galaxy's core." President Minho studied the star map showing these potential allies. The Varani dominance is crumbling. all because they underestimated a single world at the edge of explored space. 3 months after the battle, Earth received a formal invitation to join the reformed Galactic Council. The meeting would take place on the neutral planet Nexus, a world specifically designed for interspecies diplomacy. Earth's delegation traveled aboard its first faster-than-light vessel, built with technology traded from their new allies. General Kim marveled at the stars streaking past the viewports. 6 months ago, we were alone in the universe, he said quietly to Ambassador Hyun. Now we're reshaping galactic politics. Because we were underestimated, she replied. Sometimes being overlooked is the greatest advantage. The Grand Council chamber on Nexus was a massive dome with seating for representatives of 30 different species. The Varani occupied the central position, their numbers reduced but still commanding respect. All eyes turned as the human delegation entered. Ambassador Hyun took her place at the speaker's podium. Her voice was calm but carried throughout the chamber. Humanity comes seeking friendship, not dominance, she began. We've demonstrated we can defend ourselves, but we prefer cooperation. Technology doesn't follow a single path. Diversity of approach brings strength to us all. She gestured to the various species present. Each of us evolved on different worlds, faced different challenges, and found different solutions. Why should we all follow the same technological development? The greatest innovations come when different paths cross and share their knowledge. The chamber was silent when she finished. Then, slowly, representatives began to signal agreement in their various cultural ways. Over the next 10 days, the council was reformed. No longer would the Varani hold absolute authority. Earth became a founding member of the new alliance, alongside the Materi, the Oridi, and even the Drakari, who had broken from their traditional Varani alliance. The Varani were humbled but included in the new structure, their experience and advanced technology still valuable to the galactic community. Their attempt to subjugate Earth had accidentally created a more balanced, equitable system for all species. On the final day, as the formal treaty was signed with great ceremony, Ambassador Taeho of the Varani approached General Kim during the celebration. I must know, he said quietly, his once arrogant demeanor replaced with genuine curiosity. How did we miss your capabilities so completely? Kim smiled, taking a sip from his glass. Throughout human history, we've been throwing rocks at our problems. We've just gotten much better at how fast we throw them. Taho considered this, a simple answer to a complex question. Sometimes the simplest answer is the right one, Kim replied. Your people became so focused on energy manipulation that you forgot the basic principles of physics. A rock moving fast enough can do as much damage as any laser. A lesson we won't forget again, Taho acknowledged. What happens now? General Kim looked around at the diverse species mingling peacefully. Now we learn from each other. You teach us about energy manipulation, dimensional physics, and faster-than-light travel. We teach you about kinetic weapons, alternative technological paths, and perhaps the value of not underestimating those you consider primitive. 6 months later, the first joint human-alien research facility opened on Earth's moon. Scientists from 12 species worked together, combining their unique approaches to create technologies none could have developed alone. And far away, at the edge of charted space, other civilizations heard the story of a small blue planet that had changed the balance of galactic power overnight, all because they had perfected a technology others had abandoned as primitive. Some called it the Earth paradox. Sometimes moving forward requires looking back at paths not taken. And sometimes, those who appear most primitive are simply those who took a different path to the stars.